Okay, guys, we should be live over here. Welcome. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Happy Tuesday. Woo! Happy 10/15. It's a tax deadline, everybody out here in the US.
Wow.
So hopefully you guys have some time to jump on here today because this is going to be a really, really awesome one. Let me just mute my phone. Yeah, I'm really, really excited to have you on here, Tanya. I'm really excited.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Is it cooling off out there in Canada yet?
It's starting to cool down a little bit, but today is a hot day. We're thinking of turning the air back on again today.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's cooling off. It'll be cooling off soon, but yeah.
Yes, it will.
But yeah, all right, guys. Well, I'm really, really excited today to talk about brand building. We're going to talk about social media and how to utilize that, and just really how to ultimately think outside the box here. And I can't think of anybody better to talk to about this than Tanya. And just to prove that to you guys, I mean, Tanya's a 2019 IPBC Professional Leader of the Year, 2018 Intuit Global Firm of the Future contest winner. She's got the 2018 Bookkeepers Bootcamp program, and she's also 2018 Practice Ignition Top 50 Women in Accounting Worldwide. So she knows a thing or two about branding. So I'm really, really excited to have you on here, Tanya.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlie. Happy to be here.
Yep. And if you guys have any questions as we go through this, I'm actually going to pull it up on my end so that I can see questions as they come in, comments as they come in.
Okay.
So just, feel free. If you guys are here, drop down a hashtag live below. Make sure that let's bump up the algorithm. Make sure that people get as many people we can get help in here and served in here as possible, because we're all about delivering that value, right?
Absolutely.
So, all right, Tanya. So can you tell me a little bit about like your career trajectory, or like how you came from, got into accounting and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, so accounting is not my first career. Accounting is my third career. I have a lot of gray hair in here. My voice may sound young. I may look young. I'm much older than I look. Yes, I did insurance for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And insurance overlapped with, at one point I was 25 and I ran an insurance office that had a Liberty tax office in it. And as the manager, I felt it was very important that if I was to deal with any complaints, that I knew the other side of it. So at 25 in 1997 was it 97? Yeah, 97, I think it was. No, actually before 97. Anyway, but that's when I actually learned about taxes. So I learned about Liberty Tax, learned, all of that, the tax compliance and all of that to be able to deal with that. So that was my first overlapping. I then started doing my own taxes on the side after I left there. I left there, moved to the other side of Canada for family reasons. And then just built a very small tax business, under 100 clients. It was just small. It was just, extra income coming in. And then when I had my daughter, I got pregnant, had my daughter 18 years ago, and decided not to return to work at all in insurance. My husband said, just focus on taxes full time. So I did. And then I found that, the number person in me carried a few numbers wrong. And I'm like, oh crap, I can't, if this won't support us. Either that or I just underestimated, whichever. So then I went to work with part-time in a call center, TELUS. So I could have, I looked at it. Do I want to actually get into the bookkeeping end, or do I want to work with just say something that I didn't have to do a lot of thinking. My daughter was still young. She had just started school. So I didn't want all those extra responsibilities, but we needed to be able to catch up. So TELUS is like our T-Mobile, basically. It's a cell phone company. So it was just customer service, worked there until we moved here. I was part-time, worked from home, so it was perfect. I dropped my hours during tax season so I could still service my tax clients. And when we moved here 11 years ago, we've moved to an area that's about 4 hours away from where we are. We moved here for family again. I realized very quickly that I needed to do something else. Do I want to go back to work full time? what do I have? I could go back into insurance. I could go back into call center. I'd probably be making minimum wage in this area because we're 3 hours out of the city. Do I really want to do that and do shift work in call centers? Or do I just want to, start my own thing? So I actually went virtual 11 years ago with my tax clients. I thought I would lose them, and I lost 10 out of 300.
Wow.
They just said, no, we'll come to you. I still have some that drive down here and spend the weekend down here to come and see me get my do their taxes, and everybody else is virtual, which was really great. And then I branched out here. I took an official course because I was self-taught on the bookkeeping side of things. So I went through, I felt that because I didn't have a reputation here, I needed a degree. So I went through and in 2 weeks did a 2-year course, and I have a degree with honors up on my wall. I was very focused. I mentored under a local bookkeeper here for a year as well to make sure that I was doing everything properly. And then I started my own business.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that was very different world. That was desktop. That was still working with a lot of paper. And just to speed it up here, 2012, QuickBooks Online launched in Canada. I was one of the first 50 people with an account. I did not embrace it back then. I had several clients on it because they wanted to be on it, but I didn't really embrace it. I got myself a little more connected with some other QuickBooks Online pro advisors in our area, and really opened my eyes to what the cloud could do. And that's when everything changed. And I realized at the same time, I saw Kevin O'Leary was on Shark Tank, and he said, you have not created a business. You've only created a job for yourself until you can leave, and work will still continue to get done. Mm-hmm. And so all of that kind of happened at the same time, changed my mindset. And now there's a team of 5 of us, 6 of us.
Wow.
I think there's 5 of us. And we haven't looked back since, obviously.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Out of all that, I can't believe that QuickBooks Online came out 7 years ago. That seems like a long time ago.
Oh, well, it's been in the States for much longer.
Really? I didn't know that.
Much longer in the States. Okay. But yeah, so I'm definitely a very early adopter here in Canada.
That's amazing. That's such an incredible journey that you've been on over the years here, from insurance to the Liberty Tax, and then, to running your own firm and having the 300 clients and moving. And then ultimately understanding that, you not only want to be a freelancer, but become like the CEO of a business and have a team. And I think that's really incredible. At what point did you realize what happened? What was the importance of, when was it that you realized the importance of building a brand? I'm just curious where this came into play.
That would have been Jennifer Moore, who is very well known up here in Canada. She was one of the ones that her, Tamitha Deniers, and myself, again, Canadian names, the 3 of us live within about 20 minutes of each other. And we all got together, and Jenny was really the catalyst in pushing me forward. I, at that point, I used to train back in my insurance career, but then, you become very complacent in what you're doing. So I didn't have a brand. I just knew people locally. I've always worked on referrals and word of mouth, and that's how we were still working. And Jenny really pushed me. She says, I see something in you. I think Intuit will see something in you. You need to do more webinars. You need to do this. You need to do that. So she was really the driving force and the catalyst behind forcing me outside of my comfort zone. So I started doing webinars, and basically I just thought, what is it that I want to know more about? And at that point, it was really value pricing. That was the big thing. So, let's start to do some webinars on that. Let's start to, take some things that I've, come up with that have winning and proven winning strategizations, and try to help the rest of the accounting world out there understand how to easily package and price. And so that's basically what started it. And then I said, okay, well, I've got a following. Instead of just doing monthly deeds, let's break into something else. And then let's do another topic, and let's do another topic. And that's when I realized the importance of it, building the brand. So we actually have 2 brands. We've got our brand side, which Leanne Ballard, who's my operations leader, and her background is social media marketing. She handles the branding for our cloud bookkeeping services, which is our bookkeeping side of things. She helps me with all the branding, but is, I've learned how to do most of that myself on the Bookkeepers Bootcamp. And it's basically with making myself visible as the go-to person who was willing to help people and who was willing to provide those free webinars and get that free information out there.
Gotcha. That's incredible. Okay. Amazing. What kind of results, I guess, how long did that take to before you started to get traction or see some kind of results from a business standpoint, revenue standpoint, when you started to do the webinars?
So I'll answer that in a two-part question. So
Okay.
traction fairly quickly, because we had, again, Jenny started the first Canadian Facebook group that was out there for a lot of the accountants and pro advisors. So I was posting the free webinars up in the Facebook groups. Now there's, of course, a ton of them out there. There were a few in the States, but again, there were not a lot of them. There were still only a few of them. So Intuit or anybody else that we would come across at, the conventions or, our conferences, anything else, we would just let everybody know, here, go to this. Intuit was, their Intuit reps were telling people, you know what, these guys have put together this. It's a great online community. So the traction for the webinars and the viewers absolutely came very quickly. The turnover into the money did not come until I decided to do something with that side of it, which was our Bookkeepers Bootcamp.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Okay.
was, I realized after going to a conference 4 years ago, or maybe it was 3, I think it was 4 years ago, that other bookkeepers don't, or accounting professionals, because I work with accountants as well, don't do things the same way that I do things, because their experiences and their education and everything is very different. Because I come from a customer service background first, everything I do is outside of the box for the accounting profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked with 3 bookkeepers for a year to build the Bookkeepers Bootcamp program. So I guess it essentially took 2 years before I was able to start actually generating money from my brand.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So
Yeah.
you put a ton of effort on that front end to build that asset, which is that it was a Facebook group and ultimately a brand, right?
Right. So now I'm in a different Facebook group. So now I've got my own Facebook group, which is the Bookkeepers Corner Facebook group. We've got almost 2,500 people, and it's about a year and a half old. It started for just Canada. We now have there's more US than there are Canada, but it's, the world is smaller. We've got some from, other countries, but it's, again, just to support people. And I know you're a member of that group as well, Charlie, too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just to be able to support people. And again, it's important for the branding. So all these free webinars I put out there, if I see somebody's question, then I know I can give an answer to. The group kind of moderates itself, but I still try to make sure that I'm finding time to go in and answering some questions here and there, which is, again, building my expertise, building the brand.
Gotcha. Yeah, and if you guys haven't checked out that group yet, Bookkeepers Corner, definitely check it out. Love what Tanya's done in there. So. And she's got trainings and I think you guys do some interviews and things like that in there too, right?
Yeah. So right now we're doing a few things. So we do the Beyond the Cloud every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific, which is today's version of an old-fashioned call-in radio show. We wanted to, again, just do something different. So people can join us live on Zoom. They can join us just in Facebook chat. It's on our YouTube channel, so it can be rewatched at any time. And it's just a matter of somebody's got a question. I have a few topics in mind just in case nobody has any questions that we can talk about, but it's just very off the cuff, informational. If you've got a question, type it in. Somebody on there is going to answer. I've got, a good group of probably 5 or 6 who are I can count on to almost always be there, but anybody can join live at any time. And then we've got currently our financial advisory webinar series. So what I did, and this was from Scaling New Heights in Salt Lake City, I realized I really needed to know more about financial advisory and a better way to do it. I didn't want to spend a whole other year building another boot camp. I had boot campers that are like, build it, I'll pay for it. And I'm like, I don't want to spend another year building it. We need this now. And so I reached out and connected with some of the guys there. And so it's 12 weeks, well, I guess 13 weeks. We have 12 different financial advisory apps, I guess, that in each of the apps kind of do something different. But I've said to them, I don't want a normal demo. I want to know how. We need to know how, because everybody's struggling with the how. How do you price it? How do you package it? How do you implement it in an easy way? Because a lot of us, we watch something and we get really excited and we're like, great. And we get all pumped up and we go and we sign up and we try to get a client on, but we realize we haven't been given the proper tools as to how, and then it falls off. And, so this is to come over that. So we're almost halfway through right now. They're on my YouTube channel. They're on our website, cloudbookkeepingservices.ca. You can go to the list of all of the past ones. You can register for new ones, as well as they're in the Facebook group. And they're, again, more of a how-to. So the idea is by the time we're done, we should be able to know what tool does what's going to work best with what client, and how to actually build a plan and easily start implementing with our clients to be able to making more money and really, advancing our profession and advancing our, what we're doing with our clients.
I love that. I love that. So it's very much, hands-on how to implement, take action.
Exactly. Now, some of the apps don't really understand, even when I give everybody the same instructions. Some I find are more of a demo rather than others. You can, watch for yourself and determine which is. I've told them all they can do a demo with their products because we need to be able to see how it works and how to do it. But again, give us step-by-step instructions, break it down, hit us over the head with that frying pan. It needs to be very obvious and not complex. And I've said to the apps too, that if they do this and they speak to me, chances are I'm going to sign up, use their product and not churn from it, that I'm not going to just drop off and not use it because they spoke to me and they made it really easy to understand, and the follow-up support. And most of them are listening. I've been pretty impressed with what we've got so far. The last week, which is the week of December 2nd, and it's every Monday, so it's the same time. And on that last week, what we're doing is we're actually having a panel. Hopefully they all show up. They've all committed of all of the apps, so that way people can come and start asking comparative questions and have everybody there to be able to answer. So, which is something that has never been done before.
That's
so
interesting.
So far it'll be very interesting. So
hopefully nobody
committed.
Gets into a fight. Like
no fights. No fights.
No,
it's all a good fight.
For, I know that we're talking about the how-to and practicality, and I want to make sure that we give some tangible, practical tips here today that people can talk. And I want to start, let's focus on the building your brand. And what would you say to somebody that says this is outside of their wheelhouse, or, how about that first one? They're uncomfortable to get in front of a camera, or they're uncomfortable to put themselves out there.
You know what? I was too when I started back up again. The best thing I can say is just do it. Just do it. So Twyla Velmhurst, who they've got a new app coming out. So they've got an accounting firm. It's 2080 or 8020, and I'm going to butcher it. And when she sees it, she's going to give me heck. But up here in Canada, in Alberta, they also have an app called Helm, which is a cash flow and forecasting app that currently integrates with Xero, and they're working on the integration with QBO. So they've got a lot of experience. And what Twyla did last month, and I loved it, is she challenged a bunch of people to do a video per day. So anybody that kind of follows me on social media might have seen that. So everybody did a video per day, and it was to be less than a minute, and it was to help to get you over that hump of being camera shy. Some people gave business tips. I didn't. I felt, there's enough of that. So I just kind of talked about what we did that day. Sometimes that had to do with business. Sometimes maybe it didn't. But if you do that, for 30 days, put it out there in social media. The whole purpose of it was to help people get over that fear of doing that. Then do the webinars, and don't look at how many people are registered or how many people are there. Maybe start with hosting webinars. So the financial advisory series are very easy for me because all I have to do is host it. I do a brief introduction, which I get to talk about myself, which is, great. I get to talk about boot camp. And that's why I love doing them, because it's funny that the apps are saying, well, what's in it for you? Or do we pay you? I said, no, I don't want pay. I don't want this. What's in it for you? I said, I just get to talk about my brand. It helps me brand build. So you get to do that, talk about it for a little bit, but then I get to step back, mute myself, and let them take over, and only kind of jump in if I see that there's maybe some struggles or some interpretations. So even if people start off with something like that, and then start to build them before they're actually doing their own. But just with baby steps, but just do it.
I love that. I completely agree with Tanya, guys. Like I've been thinking the same shoe as Tanya, where, uncomfortable on camera, or just uncomfortable just putting yourself out there in general. And it's just putting the reps in and getting out there and doing it. And it's just a process, but you'll get more and more comfortable with it. And yeah, that's all I can say. I remember that I would do mentorship calls, or even like one-on-one coaching calls with a coach or something, and I would be nervous about that. Not even on social media or anything, and it's just being on video. So it's just you have to get frequent to get comfortable.
Exactly. And don't focus on the number of people that are going to be watching it. I think that's the worst thing, because when I started doing the first webinars with Intuit, because I'm also part of their trainer writer network. And so when I started doing their first calls, and they're like, great, there's, so far we've got, 2,000 people registered. I was like, what? 2,000 people are going to be watching me live? I mean, and that was only a year ago. So I'd already been doing this, but that got me nervous. So don't focus on the number of people. Just keep the focus on, again, what you're doing, the topic, and just purposely don't look at that information.
Right. Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We have a question. Mac said, I am camera shy. What is the app again? Was there an app that you mentioned there, Tanya?
So what I did is with the apps, I think I just recorded my video on my phone, and then I used Buffer to send it out to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You could do Facebook Live. If you're really nervous about it, just record with your phone first, because then you can watch it back. You can play with it. You can do things. If you want to get into editing, our app that we edit with, we use Movavi, which is Movavi. Very cheap to get a license for it. I think our full license was like $80, something around those lines. And if you're in Canada, I do believe it even charged Canadian dollars. US, it would charge $80. And so as long as you can email yourself that, you can then do some editing with it. It's really simple and easy to use as well, and it's cheap. So you can either just re-record or get into doing that. And depending on what we do, sometimes I do both, combination of both.
Awesome. Very cool. What would you say to somebody, Tanya, because you were probably at this point in the past, you said you had 300 clients, like, I'm too busy to go out there and work on a brand. Like I'm too busy doing work, and I'm too busy doing other marketing avenues and networking events or whatever. What would you say to somebody that's just like, I'm just too busy with my business right now?
Start building. So those 300 clients, so that's what we were, and those are tax clients. So now we were up at 600 tax clients. We're now down to about 450 because we've raised our price, which has gotten rid of, some of the more frugal people, which is great because we're making more and working less. Bookkeeping clients, we're at about 50. So all I would say to those people is you do still need to build a brand. It is very important. You may not want to do anything with it now, but what happens if we hit a recession? You lose a lot of clients. Without a brand, you're not going to be able to replace those clients. So even if it's as simple as a Facebook page and you're offering tips to your clients, bookkeeping tips, tax tips, do a quick video and post that out on social media for your existing clients. That's still really important to be able to do, to be able to build from there versus going out to the whole world. Then just keep for your existing clients.
Gotcha.
Still really important.
That's okay. That makes sense. So if you're somebody that's looking to monetize this as soon as possible, like maybe even out of necessity because they need to get the revenue up in the business, how would you recommend the strategy in terms of monetizing your brand, or generating more clients through that?
So that definitely, just get started right away. Make sure you're out there and have something to be able to give to clients. Come up with something that's valuable that you can give to them for free if they go to your website and fill in a form. And so it might just be as simple as maybe you come up with a little booklet on, best accounting practices for businesses. Come up with, again, something tangible that you can give away that you just create once, and you can give that away free. So use that as almost like your clickbait. You can do that. Have what we do locally here is we also have free, a free or even charge a minimal fee if you want people to show up, because depending on who you talk to, you might say, well, if it's free, less people tend to show up. So maybe charge for $25, something, and have an information session, go out and do a night and give them, again, information, something that's going to be valuable for them to a business. Give them something at the end to be able to, again, walk away with, so that you can follow up and try to sell them on your services based upon selling them on your knowledge.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah, that's how we've built our brand locally on the cloud bookkeeping service side. So we are now, we're in every single networking group. We have, I do volunteer, both Leanne and I are volunteer mentors through Futurepreneur Canada, so they refer to us first as well. We have another local group called Quintivation, which is kind of like a Startup Canada for our local area. We're one of their one of their first founders. So again, we're the only accountant / business consulting group in there. We're right in with the Chamber of Commerce. So we have made sure within this past, again, Leanne joined me probably 2013, and we didn't start brand building until 2014. So it's taken 5 years, and we are now the first name that rolls off anybody's list locally. We're quoting 16 people right now. 16 in 1 week.
What's that? Onboarding?
16 businesses we're quoting right now. We're not going to be able to bring them all on. Out of them, they may not all be our target audience, but they found us. Some are local, some are just because of our website. Speaking of that, I'm going to jump off to that real quick. Your website is really, really important. The SEO Google bots like you to keep things frequent and change things up on your website. So maybe these tips that you're posting, have them on your website, have your Facebook page and everything all linked together. And if you're putting it on there, so we're with Wix. I pay $14 US a month for our website. I do not pay for anything else. We do not pay for anybody to come in and do any social media, SEO, or branding. It's just us. But because we have everything linked to there, we're constantly tweaking our website several times a week. I'm just going in and tweaking and changing things. You can Google almost any one of 75 different different words or phrases. We will come up. If there's a cloud and a bookkeeping anywhere in there, we will come up on the top page every single time, and we do not pay Google for that. And it's because we're constantly updating the website, and the Google bots love that. So every week when when I add the new post for whatever, our financial advisory webinar series was that week, I'm now going in, changing the website. I'm now putting that page out for people to go and click on. And all of this helps with your rankings, which will mean that when people are searching, you will come up first, and now you're not paying a fortune to have this done either.
Awesome. That's amazing. So you're saving on pay per click and not having advertising spend because you're using SEO.
Our advertising, other than so we do Quintivation, which is $5,000 a year. And other than our conferences, which we go to because we have boot camp, we get to write up more conferences than the average person because we're technically going as a vendor. So those aside, the rest of our advertising budget is under $500 a year.
Wow. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is all basically organic growth, guys. Not using any ads, no Facebook ads, no Google ads.
Okay. No Google ads. We do Facebook ads.
Okay, sorry.
Facebook ads for the boot camp side of it. Our Bookkeepers boot camp, we do Facebook ads with lookalike audiences. Leanne can tell you more about that. I have no idea how to do that, but again, there's ways to do all of that, and you don't need to pay a professional to be able to do all of that.
Gotcha.
For you, because there's other people out there, and you know what? If you don't know how to do it, maybe there is value to pay a professional. I just like to learn that myself. And of course we teach that in boot camp. So we need to learn about that as well too, to be able to teach other people how to do that.
Gotcha. Going back to the lead magnet a little bit here, because you said, create some kind of information that you can give out to people to get them interested in your services, right? And you mentioned that, that you have a target audience. Are you a fan of niching? Like, do you recommend any niching or specialization, or and if not by industry, how do you differentiate yourself in the market?
Okay, so I see both sides of it. I am not a fan of niching. The reason being I'm not a fan of it, everybody is talking about it. The reason being I'm not a fan is my husband he's into stocks, in which case he's watching recessions and he's watching all of that. We know what's going on, and we lived in Alberta for a year and a half, which is very high industry in oil. When the oil fields bottomed out, so many things that are attached to the oil fields stop, and you just make no money in half of the provinces out of work. So if you niche, the problem is if something happens that affects the industry that you've niched in, you've now lost all your clients. So I'm one of those people that believe that if you have multiple eggs in one basket or multiple baskets, then you're better off. Now if you chose to niche in several industries, let's say you said, I want to niche in 4 or 5 industries. You know what? I think that's a great idea, because now if something happens to one industry, you still got 4 others to fall back on. I definitely see the value in niching, but like I say, personally, that scares me. So we do have, I guess, if you want to say if we have a niche, we do have a niche in service-based industries. So again, it's not necessarily, a narrowed industry, it's service-based. Service-based, there's a lot that is done the same. 80% of our clients are service-based industries. So by having a wider niche of something that still relatively all works the same, we're able to minimize our risk of, if something happens, having us actually be in trouble for it. So that's, yeah. So like I said, I know that is not that's not the popular opinion these days.
I wouldn't say that. I think it's split. I think there's still a ton of traditional firms out there that aren't niched,
Right.
So I actually think that's still the majority, honestly, probably, but who knows?
Well,
at this point.
I know people, when I'm talking to, I get asked that question a lot about the niching. People want to niche, and I get that. So I mean, if you want to look at something again in the broader sense, we choose to only use currently QuickBooks Online, only because of the fact that I would rather specialize in one and be an expert in one rather than multiple. If somebody calls up and they're using Xero or they're using something else, it doesn't mean they're not a great client. I will happily refer them on to somebody else that I know who specializes in that software, because again, so I guess we kind of have a little bit of specialization, but again, just not specific to industries.
Yep. And I think, so let me know if I'm on the right track here, Tanya. So by just, you're doing service-based industries as a kind of a specialization, 80% focus there.
Yep.
How you differentiate so that somebody's like, oh, you're too expensive, I'm going to go to the next cheapest accountant down the street. To differentiate yourself, you're using the power of branding and putting yourself out there so that, hey, I'm Tanya. So people know, like, and trust me. And that allows you to command a higher price, and based on your service quality as well.
Yes. So there's partially that, and then partially people, it's part of our quoting conversation that we have with them, is to really let them see, here's what we do that's different than the traditional bookkeeping firm. We don't just do data entry. We are your business consulting partner. We can help you with this and this and this. Our customer service, I mean, our churn ratio is next to nothing. We've lost 3 clients. One of them I fired a few more. So I'm just thinking in most recent years, one of them we fired. So we offboarded. One of them, their business went under. And it was a franchise, and it was nothing that we could help them with. It was an issue between them and the franchisee and the franchisor. They went under, and now somebody else, we've trained them too well with their business running, that they just don't need us day to day anymore, that they're taking over the day-to-day work. And that's fine. That's fine. They still are going to come back to us if their situation changes. They will come back to us.
Gotcha.
And that works. So it's kind of a like you say, combination of the branding plus the service that we offer and how we explain to them what they're getting. Because if we were just to say, here's our price, firm A down the road is going to offer them $300, a month, and we're $500 a month. Why? Why is it different? So I don't even care what other firms charge. We don't ask them what they're currently paying. We focus in on what we do that's different and what's valuable to them. And part of that is with a questionnaire that we have that asks them what's important to them. And it's taken us years to build this questionnaire to find out what's important to them. So our closing ratio is at about 80%, not of the people that contact us, about 80% of the people who we quote. Our closing ratio of the people who contact us is probably 15 to 20%, because we're determining very quickly in that we're not a good fit. Either their value is too much on a cheaper price or their value is on something else. So we don't even continue on in that relationship to get to the point of quoting them.
That's such a great idea. Yeah. And that you're prioritizing what matters to you helps you, if they are qualified as a good potential candidate, to have a really good idea of what matters to them so that you can prioritize that on your sales conversations.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean they're not a great business and they're not a good fit for somebody. They're just not a good fit for us. And that's okay. I don't want to be that person that's taking that ball and trying to push it into a square hole, or a square and push it into a round hole. I'm a square. I want other squares of my, the same size to fit into there. So it's really important to realize that, and to realize we can be picky. We can pick and choose who we want to deal with, and to determine who we want to deal with and how you can determine upfront whether they are a fit or not.
Yeah, that is gold, guys. Like, to implement something like that so that you can really understand a lot about your prospective client. That is really going to help when you go to have your sales conversation or strategy session or whatever you want to call that conversation, to potentially enroll the client. So implement that, and you could even use a software or when you have somebody schedule an appointment on Calendly or something like that, there you can have them answer questions, or you could do a Google form as well or something like that.
Exactly. There's many options out there. You can ask those questions in Zoom. You can use the Google form. We use 17 hats, and we have a brief conversation with them first before we start sending them the questionnaires. So we let them know. Basically, our first test to our clients is that we work with them. We've got an automated process that they can either spend about half an hour with us answering the questions over the phone, or they can spend about 5 minutes filling everything in online. Do we have their permission to email it to them? If they say no, we'd rather do it online, we'd rather do it in person. That tells me that they are either not respectful of their time or of my time. So we don't continue on with them. We just let them know that, sorry, don't think we're a good fit. If they say, please send that to me by email, they value our time, they value their time, we send that off. So we choose to do it differently because we've got a pre-test. We have a lot of tests. A lot of our questions are tests.
That's great. And that makes a lot of sense. I think that there's a lot of people that forget about how valuable our time is in the accounting industry, and that we need to protect it as much as we can sometimes.
Absolutely. So
not sometimes.
Of course. Yeah. We determine 90% of the time, we determine with less than 15 minutes of our dealing with the client if we're ready to move on with them or not. So and just because of the process, and again, that we've mastered this over the years. And then we've got the next phase is, okay, we'll have a conversation with them, which is again, about a half an hour of conversation, really kind of going through the value before we quote them, before we do the actual quote, of seeing what it is that they value. And then at that stage, we still cut some people off there. So at a worst case scenario, again, 45 minutes before we're actually quoting them. So again, we're narrowing down, the number of people that are getting through. So we're not wasting our time. We're using our time valuably and very, very purposefully with those clients that we want to continue on with.
Okay, gotcha. That's amazing. That's really smart what you guys are doing over there. That's really good.
Thank you.
And
we teach all that in boot camp, by the way, too.
Yeah, awesome.
Had to get a plug in. Had to get a shameless plug in.
But by the way, are you looking at their financials at all before you give the quote, or are you at that
No.
level where you don't feel like you need to look at it?
No. We will look at it in between the quotes once they've done a pre-accepted of the quote. So we do ask them some questions. We do ask them, what their gross revenues are, what the state of their books are in. Are they behind? Average number of transactions per month, bank account. So, do they have payroll? So we do ask them some questions that we need to be able to help build the price and put in assumed timing. But when they accept the quote, that quote is based upon the information they've given us. We've got a codicil right in there that says, now the next stage in between the quote and the actual agreement, now we want to look at 3 months of your financials.
Yeah.
So again, we're very purposefully putting our time to work, because I don't want to look at everybody's financials if they're not going to even accept the quote, or if they're not a good fit.
Okay.
And there are times that we've changed the quote after we've looked at the financials.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's not accurate with the information that they originally gave us.
I'm sure. Yeah. And then do you have a deposit that gets made before you see the financials, or do they make a first month payment before the financials, or it varies?
So we don't. And again, there's a lot of other people out there in the industry that say that they do. So we're more focused on long-term relationships with our clients. So what we do is once we've kind of looked at the financials, again, less than half an hour or so to go through and to look at it, because again, we've already, kind of narrowed things down. I've got certain triggers that I know what to go in and take a look at. At that point, we send them the contract, they'll accept the contract. So when they accept the contract, then we do pre-receivables. We call them, I learned that from Ron Baker. So we bill them upfront in advance. It comes out of their bank account before we even start work. So almost like a retainer. At that point, then we start the onboarding process. Within their contract, however, it does state, and this will vary by client. So we're quoting one client right now, for example, that there's a lot of upfront work. So we've quoted them $2,500 for the conversion. 50% of that is billable upfront before we even start. The other 50% will depend on the length of time they stay with us. If they stay with us for more than 1 year, then that is waived, because again, we're more focused on long-term with us. But at least now I've made sure that we've recouped everything, all of our time and all of our costs for the onboarding and getting into it. If they leave us within the first 6 months for whatever reason, they have to pay the full second 50% of that. If they leave us within 6 months and 12 months, then they pay 50% of that. So basically after 12 months, that other portion is forgiven. So it kind of depends on the client as to how we work that in, but I would rather get creative and work that in. And again, focus on a long-term relationship.
Yeah, that's gold. I mean, that is some really smart pricing strategy there. I think that's really smart, and it benefits both parties, because you're driving a long-term relationship there.
Exactly.
So that's awesome, Tanya. I know we jumped into sales a little bit there, but it was just it was cool to talk about that stuff.
That's okay. I told you I'm an open book. Let's just go where the wind takes us, right? So
awesome. As we're wrapping up here, I just want to make sure, how can people best find you, Tanya? How can people get in touch with you?
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook. So it's Tanya Hackman Hilts. And of course, I've got, my face on there. They can find me at cloudbookkeepingservices.ca or bookkeepersbootcamp.ca in Bookkeepers Corner. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Tanya's Bootcamp as well through there. So they can reach out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There. Yeah. Awesome, Tanya. Well, this has been really, really informative and really helpful, and really love this conversation.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for jumping on here. Happy to have you. Come back anytime for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And then if anybody does reach out that we are giving to anybody who's watched this, and you reach out to us, either with myself or Leanne, we'll be giving you a 30-minute consultation of any questions that you want to ask. Pretty much ask away.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for jumping on, and I'll talk to you here soon. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I'll see y'all soon.
Everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye.